So, how have you been? How was your Thanksgiving? I took a well-earned break at the beach. Did you get stuck sitting at the kids' table? Or forced to have an awkward conversation with that crazy uncle? We all have one. It's become a cliche for a reason. But as uncomfortable as gathering with family can be, did any of us accidentally end up at dinner with a Holocaust-denying white supremacist? No? I didn't think so. That's because none of us is Donald J. Trump, who is now scrambling to deny and defend his dinner with not just one ridiculously anti-Semitic bigot, but two. Rapper Kanye West, a.k.a. Ye of DEFCON 3 on Jewish people infamy, and Nick Fuentes. And who is Nick Fuentes? Well, if you're asking that question, bless you. You're so lucky not to know. Because on the American far right, he's the worst of the worst. I know what you're thinking. Over the past 2+ years that we've done this show, we've introduced you to some of the worst, to some of the most awful and unhinged bigots out there. People like GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and GOP Congressman Paul Gosar. But Fuentes is on a whole other level. In fact, a bit of white supremacist trivia for you. Both Green and Gosar have headlined events organized by Nick Fuentes. The 24-year-old heads the America First PAC, which is similar to CPAC, another conservative political action committee, but with more white nationalism. Let me warn you viewers now, what follows from Fuentes is a lot of horrific and racist stuff.
We have our embassies and consulates all across the world. They wave the flag of what? Transsexuals, Black Lives Matter, the gay pride flag. You know, being an American used to mean something, and now it means all this crap. We've got the white Christian men that built this country the first time, and we'll do it again. You think you can replace us? You're wrong. We will replace you.
That kind of open bigotry and conspiracism is bad enough. But wait until you get Nick Fuentes on the subject of, as he puts it, the Jews, something he talks about a lot on his online show.
When it comes to the Jews, every society where has gone down with these people, it always goes from 0 to 60. The Jews had better start being nice to people like us, because what comes out of this is going to be a lot uglier and a lot worse for them than anything that's being said on this show or has been said on this show.
That's just the tip of the white supremacist iceberg. We will spare you the video of him joking about Holocaust denial and ovens, or using the N-word repeatedly. Now, Fuentes has denied being a neo-Nazi or a white nationalist, which is weird because he has also said stuff like this.
And now they're going on about Russia and Vladimir Putin is Hitler, and they say that's not a good thing. And I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that. But what other way is there to say it?
What would you call a person who jokes about Hitler being great, who makes light of the Holocaust, who vows to replace Jews and gays and black and brown people with white Christian men? If not a neo-Nazi, then what? How did this guy end up having dinner with the former president of the United States? A guy who not only attended the Charlottesville white nationalist rally in 2017 as a teenager, but was also at the Capitol on January the 6th, though he says he didn't enter the building. He does say this, though.
I'll reiterate it very strongly once again, just for all of you. January 6th was awesome.
One thing everyone agrees on, Fuentes came to Mar-a-Lago last week as Kanye's guest, according to a social media statement from Trump. Quote, "This past week, Kanye West called me to have dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Shortly thereafter, he unexpectedly showed up with 3 of his friends, whom I knew nothing about." Of course, over the years, Trump has denied knowing plenty of people he actually knows, from Prince Andrew to Jeffrey Epstein to Stormy Daniels. But even if we were to believe that Trump didn't know who that guy was, is it really that easy to break bread with a former president over Thanksgiving? It's that easy for a white supremacist to waltz into the former president's resort home? You know, the same resort home where federal agents found reams of unsecured, classified documents? The biggest scandal here, though, is not Trump. It should come as no surprise to anyone that Trump pals around with bigots, white supremacists, anti-Semites. This is a man who himself traffics in bigotry, white supremacy, and anti-Semitism. The bigger question, the bigger scandal is, where is the Republican Party? Answer, mostly in hiding, mostly silent. As of Monday morning, no condemnation, not a peep from McCarthy or McConnell. Nothing either from Trump's potential 2024 GOP rivals, Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley. Oh wait, Trump's former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, put on his big boy pants to tweet, "Anti-Semitism is a cancer. As secretary, I fought to ban funding for anti-Semitic groups that push BDS." He didn't name Trump there. He bashes BDS, Palestinians, doesn't say Trump's name, doesn't say what he was even referring to. What a brave man Pompeo is. And here's the Republican Jewish Coalition, the RJC, quote, "We strongly condemn the virulent anti-Semitism of Kanye West and Nick Fuentes and call on all political leaders to reject their messages of hate and refuse to meet with them." Well, what do you mean political leaders? Only one political leader met with them. Why not name him? This is all about Donald Trump, a man who swears he's not an anti-Semitic bigot, but who is beloved by anti-Semitic bigots. And he dines with them. And it's not just Republican silence, by the way. Are the Dems making enough noise? I mean, this is a golden opportunity for Democrats to go after Trump and the entire cowardly, complicit GOP to make it clear that his and their flirtation with far-right fascism and Holocaust denial is disgusting, despicable, and un-American. So what are they doing?
Mr. President, what do you think of Donald Trump having dinner with the white nationalists? What do you think of that, sir?
Yeah, Mr. President, actually, we do want to hear what you have to say. We do want to hear what you're thinking. Go give a speech. Do an interview. You're the president. He's the guy probably running against you in 2024. I mean, can you imagine the other way around? Can you imagine if Biden was having dinner with, I don't know, Louis Farrakhan? You think top Republicans would have nothing to say about that? Look, this morning, my team and I sat down to prepare this opening monologue for this show, and we were sitting there debating how many clips of a guy talking about Holocaust denial and Jews and Hitler should we actually put on air? That's what news coverage amounts to now in 2022. In America, this is the kind of stuff we have to talk about and cover. It's horrific. It shouldn't be normal. But it's what Trump, the GOP, and the American right want to make normal. And we can't afford to let them. For more on all of this, let's bring in former Republican Congressman from Illinois, Joe Walsh. He ran for the 2020 Republican presidential nomination before leaving the GOP. He's also host of the White Flag with Joe Walsh podcast. And Peter Beinart is editor-at-large of Jewish Currents, as well as author of the Beinart Notebook on Substack. Thank you both for joining me. Joe, even the handful of Republicans who have spoken out against Trump meeting with these two anti-Semites, because we know what Kanye said too, it's not just Fuentes, even those Republicans can't bring themselves to name Trump, as you yourself have been pointing out on Twitter. What is going on here?
Mehdi, because I'm a former Republican, I'm asked every day if this Republican Party can be saved. And every day my answer is no. I mean, think about where we are now. Utter Republican silence. Any Republican who wants to run for president or be a viable Republican or be a leader in this party hasn't said a damn thing. You mentioned DeSantis and Pence and Cruz. Look, Trump had dinner with a Holocaust-denying white supremacist. Ron DeSantis, who would like to be the 24 nominee, hasn't said a damn thing about that. As far as I'm concerned, there's zero difference, zero, between Ron DeSantis and Trump. Zero. This is where this party is right now.
And Joe, I've got to ask you, when you served in Congress a decade ago, you served alongside people like Mike Pompeo and Mike Pence. Did you, and you were on the right of the party, you and I have talked before, you said some pretty awful things which you've regretted and apologized for. But even when you were on the right of the party, did you ever imagine that we would get to this point where a former Republican president is having dinner with a Holocaust denier?
No, Mehdi, I didn't. And again, back then, I was defined as GOP extreme, and you and I would go at it plenty, generally about policy. Here's the thing, though, Mehdi. The Republican Party base has been radicalized. This is where the voters are. I come from the base, Mehdi. They've been radicalized. Why isn't Pence or Cruz or Pompeo or McConnell or McCarthy or DeSantis saying anything? Because they know this is where their base is. That's the difference.
Yes. And Peter, this Republican Party, by the way, has relentlessly tarred the left, the Democrats, as anti-Semitic for critiquing Israeli foreign policy. They've gone after Ilhan Omar for comments she apologized for about AIPAC. But here is a guy laughing about the Holocaust, saying white Christian men will replace you. He pals around with the ex-president over Thanksgiving. I mean, let's not both sides this, shall we? The Republican Party, and only the Republican Party, is going full-blown anti-Semitic. And anti-Semitic in the old-fashioned Jews run the world, the Holocaust didn't happen way.
Right. And their anti-Semitism is a subset of their general opposition to the idea of human equality and their opposition to the idea that America should be a country where everyone has equality under the law. Is anyone surprised that Nick Fuentes, in addition to being anti-Semitic, is also an anti-black racist, is anti-LGBT? I'm sure he's anti-Muslim. Yeah. This is not an accident. These things go together.
Yes.
And so what the Republican Party has tried to do is say, essentially normalize all these other forms of bigotry, right? I mean, Donald Trump has been an explicit anti-Muslim, anti-black, racist since he ran for president his entire career, but say, no, we can actually bracket that and we will still be a safe place for Jews. It doesn't work that way. These things go together. Once you have a normalized and admitted in people who fundamentally are white Christian supremacists, you're going to find a lot of anti-Semites too. And now the Republican Party should be reckoning with that, but they're not reckoning with that because, once again, they're cowards. They're afraid of Donald Trump.
Yes. Well, it's worse than that. And, Joe, I want to bring you back in here. It's not just that they're cowards. Many of them are cowards. But there's also people who agree with Trump and are happy with Fuentes. There's a de facto Fuentes caucus of congressional members, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar, who, as I mentioned, have spoken at Nick Fuentes' America First event. And Kevin McCarthy did nothing at the time. We on this show, like others, covered that, wondered what McCarthy was going to do. He did nothing. Right now, he's busy measuring the drapes for the Speaker's office if he ever becomes Speaker. Joe, he's not going to do anything about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar. Of course he's not going to do anything about Donald Trump. They're all on the same page.
No, you're right, Mehdi, because McCarthy knows this is where the Republican Party base is. Everything Peter just said is spot on. And I would add this. It's not just Nick Fuentes talking about America becoming a white Christian country again. Elected Republicans say that. My former colleagues in the House, Mehdi, are not afraid to say that America should be a Christian theocracy again. They say this because they hear it, and I hear it every day from their voters.
Yeah, and they also say stuff like Great Replacement, which is very much a far-right neo-Nazi conspiracy theory, which was once only heard at Fuentes-type gatherings, is now heard on the floor of Congress from Republican House members. Peter, as with the homophobia, which we've also seen skyrocket on the right over the past 12 months, the anti-Semitism was always there beneath the surface. It never really went away. It was just looking for an opportunity to be mainstreamed again. And Trump has done that. The modern GOP has shamefully done that, all the while hiding behind we're pro-Israel, and the left isn't, so it's fine.
Right. You know, we've talked about this, Mehdi. The thing the media has to start understanding about this response, when someone says something anti-Semitic about American Jews, you say, we love Israel. There's a coded undertone to that. And the undertone is, it's great when Jews live somewhere else. We like it when Jews live in their place. We don't like it when they live in our place, or at least if they're going to live in our Christian country, they better know their place, right? So there is nothing logically inconsistent about saying you think Israel is great. By the way, Israel is, as according to the human rights group B'Tselem, Israeli human rights organization, a Jewish supremacist state where Jews have rights that non-Jews don't have, which is exactly what many Republicans want in the United States, for it to be a white Christian supremacist state. So that response, which is supposed to be an alibi, is not an alibi at all. It's just an explanation that you don't believe in the idea of equality under the law.
Yes, it's a very good point about equality. And Joe, after the midterms, the GOP seemed a little anxious about the results and about Trump's role in it. Could they move beyond Trump? Some in the GOP were kind of dipping their toe in that water. I mean, the irony here is this is a moment for them to do it, and they're not. The other irony, well, the real sadness here is that even if Trump were to renounce this kind of bigotry, he were to say, well, I didn't know he was, and I condemn him, which he hasn't done yet, what would that change on the ground? The genie is out of the fascist bottle. As you say, the base is radicalized. Anti-Semitism is now everywhere. Homophobia is now everywhere. Islamophobia already was everywhere, as was anti-black racism. How do you undo this? I feel like even if Trump were to become Mother Teresa tomorrow morning, it's too late.
It's too late, Mehdi. It's too late. Look, it pains me to say this. You and I have said this a bunch. The base of one of our two major political parties has been fully radicalized. I know this well, Mehdi, because I helped to radicalize this base. All you've got to do is look at DeSantis and Pence and Cruz and Cotton and Pompeo. Anybody who deigns to run for president, they won't say a word so as not to offend their base. It's no longer fringe.
And then we're told by all the pundits in the wake of the midterms, oh, Trump is beatable this time. I don't see them beating him if they can't even call him out for having dinner with a Holocaust denier.